Well, over the past few years, Disney's Imagineering has been brought into question in terms of the quality that is produced from them from the recent offerings that have opened. And many people will point to Tiana's Bayou Adventure as being one of those, as that ride has not been reliable at either Disney World or Disneyland compared to how Splash Mountain was. But a place that a lot of people have been looking to as sort of evidence of the current state of Imagineering is out in Disneyland, as they were building a Haunted Mansion gift shop out there. And we made a previous video talking about this where we showed that the building was very just sort of bland and doesn't fit into Haunted Mansion or that area. But it has opened, and we can see the inside of this now and see what it looks like. But there's also some things that people found on Twitter X that kind of point to the fact that Imagineering is not as innovative as they used to be. So we're going to read through this and some of the things that we found here and go over it and talk about it, because it rather points to the current state of where Imagineering is. So, hi, I'm Jared with Capture the Magic. And we can see here, this is what the building when it was unveiled looked like. And again, we made a video on this talking about how, you know, they're likely to add more things to this. But if you look at it in terms of over there in Disneyland of, you know, where it's at, between the Haunted Mansion and now Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it almost looks like it fits more Tiana's Bayou Adventure than it does Haunted Mansion. And this is some more views. This is from Attractions 360 of just showing around it. But again, like, it just doesn't seem Haunted Mansion-esque there. But you're like, okay, let's see what they end up doing once it's opened. And here's what it looks like when it is open, which I will say they did do some stuff to the outside of it. It does look better, looks a bit more themed to it. In terms of it, they did age it a little bit. It looks like it still looks like a barn, but you know, the inside, again, on its face, looks really cool. It's got the aged woods in there and things like that. So it does somewhat more fit Haunted Mansion in its finished iteration here. And this is just showing some of the things inside the shop. You got some artwork. You got, again, like, I think this looks cool. Like, it looks fine. I don't think the outside is still, we'll talk about that in a second. I don't think it's necessarily original. And we'll find out a lot of this stuff in here isn't original, because people started looking around and they started noticing some things. And first thing they noticed, this is from Original Orangebird, says, I wonder whose Prime account they used to get free shipping. And this is a sculpture, whatever it is, that they have inside of the Haunted Mansion shop. And here we can see this bust, which looks like the exact same thing on Amazon that you can get for $64. And I mean, it may have some subtle differences, perhaps. If we look at right there, that's the one that's in the ride. But I think that is the exact same thing, or something very close to it. There may be some Temu versions out there and other ones. Then Skipper Haas here said, hey, Disney, WTF, you just stopped caring about art integrity. The building is a prefab and the art inside is fake. I know a few pieces were beautifully made, but filling in the gaps with this trash. And what they're pointing out is on Redbubble here, this is AI art that seemingly they just purchase here and put out there. So this is what it looks like inside the shop. And then this is the same one that you can buy on Redbubble. And we look at this AI art of this ghostly bride art painting. You can get it for $21.86 on Redbubble. I suppose if you get the large version, you're talking $34. If you get the extra large, you're talking $50. But either way, that is what it is being used in this ride, is that AI picture there. Then you have what looks like the building. The one on the bottom here is the Haunted Mansion gift shop. And it seems like this is a prefabbed building. If you look at that, it is almost identical. There's a few things that are a little bit different here. It doesn't have that side little window spot there. But for the most part, this looks very identical to this prefab barn that you can get, which I would say in terms of Imagineering, it's not something that's happened before in the past. I don't recall a lot of aspects of Imagineering being things that they just went and got prefabbed or bought online. And, you know, perhaps they did and just wasn't as aware. Again, it's hard to argue. I'm not saying it's the exact same company that made this necessarily, but it definitely looks like some sort of blueprint for a prefabbed barn that they used and picked up. Perhaps maybe made a couple of changes to it, but again, the concept of it being a very just a prefab barn that you can buy basically anywhere. This is from legacypostandbeam.com. And we look at the website here. It looks like this is the Armstrong 4236. Again, it looks like it costs here $88,000. So not cheap, but it definitely looks like that is the barn, or very close to the barn, that they're using for the Haunted Mansion gift shop here. And this is technically, I think they said it's a party barn. So I suppose that is, I don't know if it's good or bad, but definitely seems like that is the place, or very similar place, that they got these plans or just did a prefab unit here instead of building something completely from scratch. And in that same thread, he points out as well some other instances of Disney doing kind of similar things here. So it shows Zootopia theft. It says Disney accused of stealing fan art for new Shanghai Disneyland ride. And this is some artwork that somebody made like 6 years ago. And it seems like that if you look down here in this picture, that is the exact same one that is in that ride. Now, I will say Disney has every right to use this stuff because of copyright and trademark and things like that. So if you do make something like t-shirts or pictures, whatever it is, of characters that Disney owns, I mean, they have every inherent right to just take that and use it because it is their trademark. But I would say it does show a lack of creativity of just grabbing things off the internet and then just using it in your rides. So yes, they have every right to do it, but it definitely seems uninventive to say the least, at least in my opinion. And we have another instance here of Brer Bear and the Brer Fox, and carvings were replaced with generic $200 art anyone can buy online. And it seems like that is exactly what they put there. It shows a lack of creativity with Imagineering, and this is something that we've talked about and many other people have talked about, is the fact that Imagineering is not what it used to be. With all the eyeballs that are on Imagineering now and people finding this, more than likely there's many more instances of this inside this shop and many other areas, because once people start seeing this, the internet will do what the internet does and starts doing the sleuthing thing. And there's probably multiple instances of this. And a lot of people will sit here, they'll probably see this video and say, this is super nitpicky and you're just finding things to complain about. But as I've often said, Disney created basically the whole theme park industry as we know it. And they themselves set the standard of what these things are supposed to be. And in my opinion, in recent years, Disney has fallen short of the standard that they set themselves. And I just don't think years ago you would have had Tony Baxter and Joe Rohde and these legendary Imagineers filling in rides and gift shops with things that you can find on Amazon and Redbubble and Temu and all these online places. I think they would have gone with original art, original designs. And it may be nitpicky, but again, it's the details that Disney used to do really well that I feel like they're just doing shortcuts now. And I think this overall goes into Imagineering in terms of the newer rides that have come out. And obviously Tiana's Bayou Adventure has had its issues. You talk about the Epcot overhaul, and a lot of things have fallen short of what was proposed and what people were expecting, which then brings into question the things that were announced at D23 that are coming to Disney World and even some of it at Disneyland. How are these things going to be when they're done? When will they be done? Because we're already seeing delays in terms of Animal Kingdom. At first, Dinosaur was going to close this year. Now it's going to be open all of 2025. I think the timeline on that is going to be pushed back. Obviously, we're seeing the permit issues with the Rivers of America, with the state of Florida in terms of the environmental impacts there. They finally did say that Monsters, Inc. was going to replace the Muppets area, but the timeline on all these things is sort of unknown at this point. And I've said for a while, I don't think we're going to see any of this stuff until 2028 and beyond, just because Disney historically does not build quickly on top of everything else. And I think this is just more of a thing of where Imagineering is. And I've often said, I don't know if you point it directly to Imagineering, if you point it to corporate, and maybe they're just saying, hey, here's your budget. This is all you can do. And maybe that's all they were left with, as they said they didn't have much of a budget. They filled it out with these things. So it's hard to know. It's probably a mixture of both. There is a lot of talent that has left Imagineering, especially during 2020 and COVID. A lot of the legendary or big time Imagineers were, not fired, but they resigned, but essentially they were let go because they're expensive. And I think corporate wise, they've been pushing a lot more things. So it's really hard to know having an idea of what they want. Obviously, lots of cutbacks and budgets would be the case here. They want to build things cheaper. They don't think they have to go, the details is what ends up, a lot of times being more expensive. You can go grab an art piece here on Redbubble for $20, or you could get an artist to make it. Obviously, an artist is going to be more expensive. So a lot of shortcuts, I think, have been implemented just because it's cheaper. And if there is still the talent in Imagineering, which I'm sure there's still imaginative people in Imagineering. I don't think it's what it used to be, because I think a lot of those Imagineers over the years have gone over to Universal. And we look at what's going on with Epic Universe. I mean, they're doing very original ideas. They're doing things that seemingly are just from scratch, from the ground up, reimagining, Dark Universe with the monsters and all these things they're doing there. I have a hard time thinking that they're filling out their gift shops and their attraction queues with things that you can find on Amazon and Temu and Redbubble. And if they are, then people will find it and we'll talk about it here. But I haven't seen any instance of them doing that. And I think when you look at Imagineering nowadays, It's either the lack of imagination or talent, or corporate essentially dictating what they can and can't do, and or giving them a small budget to work with. And if I were to guess, it's probably 50-50. I definitely think the corporate side of things has way more control in their hands on Imagineering than they used to. But we've often talked about, and many other people have talked about, Imagineering has turned much more into a project management, group versus a part of the company that is just thinking of these brand new ideas, trying these innovative, new things. I think that Disney is rather risk averse. Many times they don't want to take too many risks. They don't want it to fail. And that's the part of being imaginative, is taking risk. And again, I will point to, you look at Epic Universe, Celestial Park is a completely original IP. That is taking a risk. There's a lot of people that may not like that because, again, IPs are easier to do because people know about them. And even the Dark Universe, Monsters Land in Epic Universe, that's a bit of a risk because it's not an IP that everybody, it's not a super relevant thing today necessarily. Yes, they have Halloween Horror Nights, but it's not they're not a bunch of IPs that people are just going to know from movies and shows going on right now. But I think when you couple that with good you're being very imaginative, you're telling a story, you can bring guests along with it. And now I'm very excited for Dark Universe from the things that they've shown and all the cool aspects of that land. So I think, again, you're seeing two companies operate rather differently. And I've been thinking for a while that Universal is, while they don't have the market share, Disney is still the biggest theme park in the world. They, Magic Kingdom is number one. Like, they obviously have the market share. Universal has been eating into that. But I do think for some time now, Universal has been leading the charge of innovation, doing, creative lands. Look at the Wizarding Worlds, look at Epic Universe, look at all this that they've been doing. I definitely think they're pushing the envelope. Disney many times is reacting to them to bring their new things. I think D23 this year is a good evidence of that, as those lands were announced clearly as some sort of rebuttal to Epic Universe. And while, yes, these are small things here, but it's an indication of where, Imagineering currently is. And I don't think it's in a good place. And I think as competition increases, and Universal is not going to go anywhere, and I think a lot of people think that, once Epic Universe opens, that they're going to slow down and Disney is going to build their stuff and they're going to get things back to how it was back in, say, 2010 or whatever. But I don't really think that's the case. I think the theme park landscape has forever changed in terms of Universal is now a major competitor to Disney. And Disney doesn't have to admit it publicly. I'm sure internally they probably admit this, because obviously Epic Universe is going to be a huge draw for Universal. We'll see what it does for Disney, because I think, they're obviously hoping that they're going to have a spillover effect for their parks in Disney World. But Universal is only going to get stronger and continue to do the things they're doing, improve their offerings and eat into that market share more, which, at some point, this is going to force Disney to reevaluate the way they do things. Because if Universal continues to eat into market share and they're doing these truly innovative things, this is why competition is good, because it will force Disney to react to this. And I think Disney for a long time has always operated as they're the only player in town. And for a long time, they kind of were. I mean, Disneyland and Disney World, there hasn't been a lot of competition in terms of, real major theme parks pushing them in terms of attendance and market share and things like that. But again, as not only Universal Studios, but regional theme parks are becoming much more of a thing, which can eat into people traveling to Disney World and even Universal Studios. As you got Dollywood and Silver Dollar City. There's a brand new Mattel park being built. There's all sorts of ideas and plans for various Midwest parks that have been called the Disney World of the Midwest. I think you'll probably see some of those come to fruition. And I think those offerings from theme parks in general are just going to get stronger, which is going to force Disney at some point. They're going to have to get back to the things they used to do, or they're going to continue to cede market share to these other companies, these other theme parks. And this is why, again, I always contend that competition is a good thing. But, and I'm not going to go on here and act like I'm offended by this, but I do think it's rather unoriginal to go grab some AI art off of Redbubble and bust off Amazon. And again, you would think like a long time ago, these are things that originally Disney would have made their own bust. They would have made it really original. And I'm sure there are things in this shop that are original. But, the whole reason I even talk about this stuff is because I do want Disney to get back to the things they used to do and not just be a spreadsheet management company. Because I think if a strong Disney World and a strong Universal Studios present the best things they have to offer, the consumer wins. And this is, I do enjoy and love the things that Universal is doing with Epic Universe. And I do hope that it does force Disney back to the drawing board to reevaluate what they're doing and get back to the things they used to do that made the Disney parks what they were, and get back to the storytelling and the details that matter and being really original and inventive with what they do. And I think this is, again, another example of being rather uninventive by just having AI art that you grab off of websites, you get busts you grab off of Amazon, taking fan art and just putting it into your stuff. We've also seen Disney do this with t-shirts as off of a popular t-shirt that sells somewhere. They just kind of take it and sell it themselves, which from a business standpoint, they have every right to do. I'm not saying that they don't, but again, I think it's the perception of how this looks. And it seems like, in my opinion, Disney's Imagineering is lacking. And this is another example of this. Not only the building itself being a prefab building that you could go grab yourself and build, but the fact that the stuff they're putting in it, and it just seems like Disney thinks or it's able, we'll see what it ends up being, but that they're able just to do these things because they're like, who cares? They're going to come in here and buy stuff. People are going to keep on coming. And, they're right until they're not. And they start seeing an impact on these things, which I think they could be in the beginning stages of that. But again, Disney is so big, you're not going to see like massive drop off on attendance in like a 1 quarter period. You would see a slight decline over time for a lot of reasons. It's not going to be just because Imagineering is putting AI art in a gift shop. It's not going to be because a prefab building in one gift shop. It's not a singular thing, but it's an overall thing of not only these things with Imagineering, but the offerings that they do, the price hikes, the thing they've taken away, like all these things that go into what, a Disney World, Disneyland trip can affect these things. So this is just another instance, in my opinion, where I think they're falling short of the standard that they set. And it's not a great look either way. I mean, I suppose a lot of people will defend it and say it's not a big deal, but I don't think it's a good look in terms of what Imagineering, the legendary Imagineering team that has always been the thing that made Disney so unique from everybody else. I don't really think it's much of an asset anymore, considering their latest offerings. And again, you can go look at Epcot, what was proposed, what was built, and you basically have almost what looks like a prefab building over there in Communicore Hall, which almost looks like a community college dining hall in many ways. But either way, the Haunted Mansion gift shop, I will say, does look better than what was initially shown on the outside. But some of the things on the inside aren't too original in the building itself. If you wanted to build it, you can go get the prefabbed plans yourself and build your own Haunted Mansion gift shop in your own backyard, I suppose, if you wanted to. But either way, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about Disney using AI art, prefabbed buildings, and busts bought on Amazon to put into their Haunted Mansion gift shop here in Disneyland? And until next time, we'll see you in the parks.